love her for just being, someone that I can look up to in the sport, because there were very few Black women, and there are still very few Black women in our sport that we can see it as an example of, hey, I want to be like her. I'm glad somebody, and that somebody is the late great Dave O'Brien, who was the AD at Temple University, saw something in me that I didn't see in myself, and that was coaching. So, 21 years later, I'm still doing what I think is my second skin, and that is being a dream merchant for young people that I coach and that are in the game, because I hope that I am that example for them that Renee Brown was for me when I started getting into this game.
The hospitality industry at that time was kind of a boys' club, because everybody came from hotel experience, cruise line, airlines, airport, Disney, and all of those really were male-oriented at the time. And they kind of didn't know what to do with me. For one thing, I was younger than most of them, and I was talking at the time, and I was talking about things like brand, logo, marketing, image, love, warmth, and they were talking about P&Ls and F&Bs. And yeah, when I was at the Adams Mark, I fired this guy. And when I was at the DoubleTree, I hired this guy. And they all, they just had a club. And so part of it was I clearly didn't belong, and they didn't really see the upside of a person who did not come up through one of those pipelines as being relevant. So to get around that and to make GPTMC, Greater Philadelphia Tourism Marketing, better and to do a better job, we enlisted them. I found the hoteliers who I felt were the most talkable with, and I asked for their advice. One, because I needed it, and one, because I wanted to show that I did respect them, even though our backgrounds were so different. And we formed a committee called the HIC. I know it's a terrible acronym, but it was the Hotel Initiatives Committee. And they really became our sounding board for how do we make a better hotel package? How do we make a better website? How do we activate your social media? We can do an interactive map. We can do it this way, or we can do it that way. And that really, really brought us closer together. And I think that helped. Of course, at the time, it would have helped if I had Sarah Cooper's book on how to look smarter at meetings, and been able to say things like, it is what it is. And are you sure that's in your wheelhouse? And the numbers are the numbers, and things like that. But I didn't have that at the time. So we engaged in the other conversation, and fortunately, they were very receptive. But even when you alluded to Philadelphia Magazine and Most Powerful People, even there, they would say, yeah, she's all that, but what happens when Ed Rendell's not mayor anymore? Or what happens if Tom Ridge isn't, it was as if a woman alone can't do it. And in a way, they're right, because none of us alone can do it. We're all, like Dawn will tell you, a team or an ensemble. But still, there was always that edge. And I just decided to overlook it and go for the prize.
The strength of a woman is incredible, especially when you push us. When you push us in the corner.
Locally, regionally, and through the state, frequently I was the only woman in the room. And by the way, the only Jewish person in the room, because it was largely, as I said, white guys from various parts of the country who were here temporarily or there temporarily. They moved around a lot. And many of them, as I said, were older, and they really hadn't had a relationship with a woman other than their mother, their grandmother, their sister, their daughter, a teacher, something like that. And they didn't really see the upside of learning the skill of working with somebody else who might not be a benefit to their own career. And that was really the key of it, because these guys were always on the move. So they were looking for somebody who could create their next opportunity. And they didn't see women necessarily as doing that. But then what happened is travel and tourism expanded so furiously that there was this huge need for more people, and necessity was the mother. And it was a great opportunity for women to start moving in and filling some of those new roles. So that was a groundbreaker right there. Just the need. There were so many more destinations. There was more social media and online travel. The ways to travel were changing. There was a population that had more money and time to travel. And so there was a need for more people in the industry. And women went in and got some of that.
How have you been able to maintain a level of success at the collegiate and professional levels?
I have to. I mean, that there is not very many of us in our, in our field, meaning Black women. And I do feel a sense of pressure to be successful for so many Black women in this game that are grad assistants, they are assistant coaches, and then a small percentage of them are head coaches. And I just feel I have to do that. I have to be the beacon of hope for Black coaches, because not a whole lot of us get an opportunity. And I want to be that one that ADs can look at and say, hey, if she can do it, and I'm doing it on virtually no coaching experience. Like, I came into the business from player right to coach, and I skipped over a lot of steps. But there are so many other women out there, Black women, that have to take the longest route to get to be a head coach, and they probably won't be head coaches in their careers because there aren't very many decision makers, people that hire coaches that look like them, that would even give them an opportunity to do it. I've been successful because I absolutely love what I do. I'm always trying to figure out what's the best way to manage, not athletes, but people. They are people first, and with dreams. And then they have parents who are, they want to return on their investment, because AAU costs a whole lot of money for people to participate in. They want to return on their investment. They see the WNBA in its 25th year. So the players that I coach only know that there's been a women's professional league for as long as they've been alive, and they want some of that. So I coach, I mentor from that perspective of I got to do it. I got to do it for so many people, and I don't mind that pressure because I feel like God's given me. God's have paved a way for me to be this person, and I just have to follow His lead. He hasn't led me wrong yet, and I don't think He will stop extending that to me as long as I'm doing it for the right reasons, and that is for other people, whether they're coaches, players, administrators, or whoever that don't deem Black women to be leaders in our game.
What does it feel like to finally see Black women receiving recognition for our abilities on and off the court?
My heart was full. One, because it was historical. Two, it is, when you give Black women an opportunity, we can get to those championship level games. And three, the amount of text messages, calls that I received, because anticipating what that was going to look like on Sunday, just shows me that we need visuals. We need visuals. A lot of us don't have visuals, so we don't know what that looks like. So we gave everybody a visual of what that looks like. And I just want to be clear as well. I am not, cutting other coaches, other races down to build Black people up. I'm not doing at all. I'm just looking at representation. I'm looking at opportunity. I'm looking at something that's historical. Like, I played this game a long time, and I know there are a lot of Black bodies that play this game. Probably over 50% of women's basketball players are Black women. And for us, or for them not to see representation in championship games periodically, goes to show that they don't have a visual. So we are cutting dreams, because if they don't see us, they're going to think, hey, coaching is not for me because I can't be successful. And success is winning. Success is being in those type of competitions. And it's not to tear down anybody else, but when you see, when you see a Hispanic coach, whether that's men's basketball, women's basketball, they're the first to say, hey, congratulations, we made it. White coaches don't really have to say that, because it is what they see, is what we see all the time. And there's nothing wrong with that, but there's certainly nothing wrong with us recognizing and creating a narrative that hasn't been written before with two Black women. Like, I made sure that, and we're in a pandemic, but we were in a bubble. We were being tested every day. I made sure that I walked down, because it was Joni Taylor, who was the Georgia head coach. I walked down and I told our video person that had said, hey, shoot us. Make sure you get some video. Make sure you get some pictures. Make sure that we're going to publicize this, win, lose, or draw. This was before the game. And then all the other cameras came over and they started clicking and clicking. But nobody was going to say, hey, can we get your picture? Can we make sure that we are creating memories and showcasing this? So, I mean, my heart's full. I just got a text message from Vivian Stringer, who has been coaching for 50 years, Black woman who's been coaching for 50 years. And she just told us how proud she was, how it made her cry to see us in that position. 50 years, she hadn't seen it in 50 years of coaching. That is history. That is, that is making her proud, and also recognizing her for paving the way, for staying in the game long enough to see the fruits of her labor in that form. So I am super proud. And again, not even taken away from any other ethnic group when it comes to our game. Our game is made up of a whole lot of people and ethnicities that we need to, there's space for all of us to eat, as the young people say. And it's, and it's not, tearing down other people. When I do that, when my interview was put up on social media, you see so much backlash and people just, taking a different route and seeing it or taking it out of context. But we have to continue to fight. I know sometimes they're trolls. Sometimes it's actually really people who are saying these mean things because of the narrative that they're used to seeing. So I am proud. It was a proud moment. And I hope we have more moments like that. And I hope we have more moments of, white coaches doing their thing, because they earned to be in that position. So there's room for everybody, but certainly representation matters.
Well, I guess I'd say, first of all, recognize and welcome the abilities of other women. And you've heard that from Dawn and Janae as well, too, because it does take a village. And I would be very honest about what you're good at and what you're not. I know, for example, even though hospitality is a relationship business, I am not good at parties. I am not good at networking. I am not good at being on the road and in trade shows and things like that. And so rather than looking for another Meryl in the office, I look for somebody who is good at those things. You want complementary skills. I'm sure Dawn would say not everybody has to be a power shooter. I mean, you need other things too. And I think an honest evaluation of yourself and what's needed to do the best job possible is advice. Like sports, hospitality is very competitive because if they're not going to your place, they're going somewhere else, and they might develop an affinity for it and never get back to you. Sometimes I've seen that the women who I've hired don't pay enough attention to budgets. And I don't mean spending, I mean really understanding what goes into making a good idea a producible idea, because some ideas are good, but they're not producible. And so being able to take a look, with your group and figuring out, can this be done, is important. And so is reaching back and bringing the next set of people up, because in Philadelphia, the pipeline in hospitality is not as strong as it is some other places, because we don't have enough consumer-based businesses like Coca-Cola and M&M Mars that give people broad opportunities. That's one reason I love Temple so much, because Temple has strengthened the pipeline. I have intern after intern after intern from Temple, and it's also shown that we're really in the business. And I would remember what Maya Angelou said, and I'm probably going to get this a little bit wrong, but I know she said it a bunch of different ways. People may not remember, what you did or what you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. And that's what we're all about. I would say something that a player from another sport once said, the great Gretzky from hockey. And he said, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And so if I were able to talk to myself years ago, I would say, take the shot, because otherwise you're not going to make it.
As a youngster, I was more of an introvert. So I was one that really focused on my craft. I just wanted to play sports. That was really the only thing that moved me. I wasn't really one that liked to hang out. I didn't like to party. I was more of just a competitor. And I wish I was probably a better communicator at a young age, because I would have probably found my high school days and my college days experience a lot better. I just did not talk a whole lot. My job forces me to talk a whole lot. I think my successes also forces me to talk a whole lot, but I am more comfortable in my skin now than I was back then. And that was probably because I did not talk a whole lot. And I'll say this, and Meryl just said it. In anything you do, anything in life, when you treat people good, remember this, when you treat people good, they treat you better.
Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of times when we look for people, we're not looking in the right places. People get into the habits of, hiring, what do you call them, headhunters or something. And rather than looking at the schools, looking in churches and synagogues, looking on social media in different ways, getting referrals from other people, making the active search a little more active. So instead of going back to the same wells, I think looking elsewhere is good too. And not just within hospitality. I think you can also help by connecting with other types of businesses and industries, because a lot of those skills are transferable, and a lot of times people want to make a change. But I think we get in the habit sometimes of just going back instead of spreading out.
You have to be intentional. you have to be truly intentional about having a diverse process. Because if you're not, again, you just, and we're all victims of it, meaning there's a certain, if I have if I have to hire someone, I first look at like who's in my pool of coaches that I feel like can get the job done. Number one, I do. I do have a diverse staff because I am into, making sure people are qualified to do the job. But if I have a position that's open, I'm intentional about making sure there are a couple of Black coaches in the pool. It doesn't mean they automatically are going to get the job. And I'm going to give you an example. Here's an example. We had a position, a head trainer position, and I was intentional in having candidates, Black candidates, because there aren't very many Black trainers. And then I had other candidates. The Black trainer, she interviewed, she was very nervous, and I try to calm them down. Like I want to get them to, a place where they can be their authentic selves in an interview. And not everybody's like that. They're going to judge you on your nervousness and your preparedness and all of that. So she didn't come in a suit. She was nervous. She didn't have a plan. And then the other candidates, they came. They were ready. White guy that we hired. And then another person that, just was a better candidate. So, and I told her that afterwards, I just, I removed, myself from the process. And then I had to call her and let her know that we weren't going to hire her. And then I asked her, I said, do you want to know why? And she said, yes. And I said, you look different than the other candidates. You were nervous, you weren't prepared, and you didn't have on a suit. Like, that matters. But I had to tell her, I was going to tell her regardless of whether or not she wanted to know or not. I wanted her to want to be a part of that interaction. So I know the next time that she gets an opportunity that you have to either look the part or look better, because you're gonna get looked over. If I looked you over, then someone else is definitely gonna look you over. But I'm gonna give you, what you need in that type of situation to raise, to increase your opportunity to get a job like this, because it's a big job, it's a cool job, but you got to be prepared when your numbers up. So, it's preparedness, it's being intentional, and it's also, being unafraid. Either way, unafraid to tell them no, but unafraid to say yes, that, I'm going to give you this opportunity and tell them why.